Hello, everybody. Welcome to Zeros on Heroes, Collateral Benefit. I am your co-host, Mike Mercadal. With me, as always, is
Oh, Will Watkins.
Will Watkins. Welcome to this is our second episode for the new year, lucky number 13. If you believe in that sort of thing.
Oh,
Do
is it
you believe
13?
in that sort? Yeah, technically. Well, from the original Just Trying to Look Like You versus the Collateral Benefit, this is episode 13 of Collateral Benefit. Do you believe, are you superstitious or a little bit stitious?
The world is on fire, so I don't give a fuck about numbers.
Yeah, fair enough. To a certain point, the only numbers I care about are the survivors of the resource wars that are looming ominously in the future. Thank you, everybody, for joining us live. If you are watching us live, get in the comments. Tell us how you feel about superstitions, the lucky number 13, and any of the other stuff we're going to talk about today. If you are, let's say, watching us in the future, thank you for that. At least there's some comfort knowing that the future exists. And if you like, share, and subscribe, and let us know, to find us on all the social media platforms at Zeros on Heroes.
Except TikTok.
Except TikTok. I was on TikTok as a user.
Oh, we were viral on TikTok. We had so many TikTok followers,
right.
And the teens and subtweens and twats and all them were all following us. We were very famous.
We were very famous on TikTok. Thank you for all of those fans who have migrated over to that is to finish the whole business up front. You can follow us at Zeros on Heroes. We're zerosonheroes.bsky.social. We're on Blue Sky, as to not support other fascistic platforms, maybe, who knows. And we are also on YouTube, which is Too Big to Fail, like a Too Big to Fail conglomerate. We're live on YouTube right now. But it's that. Did you? You completely reminded me of something that I hadn't thought about in years. But there was the Circuit City management scam that was going on. Did you know about this sort of thing?
Vaguely. Refresh me.
So what happened is, at a certain time in the early 2000s, late 1900s,
that's right, yeah.
Circuit City, which was a like Best Buy competitor. It was like a consumer electronics store. Went out of business, and it went out of.
If you needed Windows 95, you went to Circuit City.
If you needed, like, if it was literally like it was like a more traditional sales floor in terms of like appliance sales, like where you would get people, the salesman would make commissions. It was a real hard sell, kind of upsell kind of place. But they went out of business in I want to say early 2000s. Let's see, when did Circuit City go out of business? 2009. They filed for bankruptcy in 2008. So this was around the time of the internet kind of starting up, but they went out of business in a way that they just disappeared. They just kind of they disappeared. So if you were at a certain point, if you were applying for jobs, you could just put on your resume that you were a manager at Circuit City, and there was no way for anyone to verify it. So people just started saying that, like, I worked at Best Buy for a long time, for a while, and it was literally like in the circle of friends that you're just like, yeah, Circuit City went out of business. You could just say that you were a manager at Circuit City, and like, find any shuttered business, and you could just say, yeah, I was a managing operator of this branch. And then they're like, oh, can we verify the employment? Well, I can give you the phone number of a place that used to exist, and then you just give them a random.
I knew somebody when I used to work at a restaurant, and he said for a while he had a manager at KB Toys.
Perfect example. You could just lie. I say that shit all the time. Now the job market out there is rough for anyone who's been searching for jobs. Just lie. At this stage, who gives a shit? Just lie.
You know what they do now, though, is when you submit your resume online, it goes through the algorithm and it checks off the boxes. So there's no nuance anymore. So it's like, well, this person has 6 years of college versus 4 years of college, so we'll hire them, even though like 6 years of college, 2 of it was spent, in a ditch, drunk out of your mind.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah, but that's kind of the irony is, of course, that's kind of how it's always been. But with all of that said, yeah, no one verifies anything if you got, so if the algorithm used to be your dad's friend checking, checking resumes, or like fraternity legacy things, that was also a thing I came up against. Anyway, that our legion of following on TikTok, we hope will migrate towards our other platforms.
I feel bad for who's not going to be able to see our show anymore is Xi Jinping. He was a huge fan, and the entire government loved us.
If you think that Xi Jinping does not have access to us, I'm going to tell you otherwise. What's funny is, before we get any further into the episode, welcome to Collateral Benefit. Mike Mercadal, Will Watkins. We are a podcast in which we seek to redefine our exposure to gym culture and how it's kind of propagated through the rest of our lives, benefiting areas we never thought it would. Taking care of our fitness has improved our mental health, which improves our relationships, which improves our fitness, and so forth. And the cycle continues. We want it to be, what is the opposite of a vicious cycle?
Pernicious?
Pernicious? I don't even know what that means. What is pernicious? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it with such disdain. Well, what's the opposite?
I also forgot what the word pernicious means. I just, it was like a word association thing.
Yeah, you're just saying it sounds the same. A virtuous cycle.
Virtuous.
It keeps the V, and it keeps the cycle. Much like me in my high school years, I kept my V as long as I could. But we've found that we've improved our lives in a variety of ways, which we did not intend to benefit them in that way. But because we've taken care of our bodies, everything else has kind of been benefited, hence the name Collateral Benefit. If you have sought to improve your life in one way and found benefit in another, share that story with us. You can share it to us at Zeros on Heroes on all social media platforms. You can share it to it at Mike Mercadal, at William A. Watkins, or you can email us at zerosonheroes at gmail.com. And, we'll talk about it on air. The TikTok algorithm, which I found a genuine sense of like removal from the other platforms, because it didn't seem so doom based. Like it wasn't so, I think at some point Meta and like Facebook and even YouTube, to a certain degree, like at a certain point, all the YouTube recommendations, it breeds it in. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but it seems to benefit controversy and controversial topics more so than community, right?
Yeah.
So like I was on TikTok, it became my first stop on my phone. Whenever I had a time to kill and I looked at my phone, it kind of became a first choice, a first line of defense against boredom. And then eventually, you go and you find other things and check out my other, feeds and things to diversify my boredom. Did you use TikTok?
I'm not gonna lie. The only reason I downloaded TikTok in the first place is because you would send me TikToks, and I didn't want to open it in Safari, so I just I literally, if I'll post the screenshot eventually, but it's literally 99 plus messages from people, and I haven't.
Just gave up. Yeah,
I don't want to deal with this.
Just
text the video to me or send it on Instagram. Yeah, everybody just puts them on Instagram anyway, so it's just like.
Well, I guess it begs the question: what's your social media diet like? I think that is something in terms of the podcast. We talk a lot about how fitness influencers use social media to to spread kind of toxic messaging.
Yeah.
And you have to work twice as hard to find like content on social media that is worth the investment of time and that debunks the BS, the influencer, the fitfluencer bullshit. So what is, in terms of like benefiting my mind, at a certain point I did have to, I got off of as much of the social media as I could. I turned off notifications on Instagram and Facebook. I turned off TikTok. I turned off everything. But not TikTok, Twitter. I turned off Twitter. But TikTok seemed to be like, honestly, like good vibes. I don't know if it was because the algorithm was much more responsive to the actual content and not just trying to get eyeballs. But it was because it was non-American. It wasn't anti-American. It was just not American, which apparently we're learning.
Yeah.
Everything in the United States is just about division. It's just about creating wedges. But I felt myself, TikTok was almost like a lighter mentally load.
Yeah.
Lighter mental load. What is your like social media diet look like? Do you go like, how do you kill time?
It is drastically different than it used to be. Like back when I did the whole comedy thing, I felt like compulsion because I used to do the social media for the improvs, and it was like one of the things was you have to post every 2 hours to stay on the feed on Facebook and on at the time. I don't know if it's the same formula or whatever it is, but so I used to do that to my own personal account. I was like, I feel I'm compelled to come up with content every 2 hours, which was good for like writing exercises.
Yes, yeah.
But it wasn't like I was posting well thought out things, but it was also that, like I said, that compulsion of like, oh, I have to do this, the anxiety behind having to constantly, otherwise I'm going to fall out of the algorithm and I'm not getting many people's feeds, and I have to comment on this person's thing or else they're not going to see my stuff. And it's like, and literally the other day I got a thing I got actually probably got 3 or 4 of these over the past couple of weeks, which is like, your post is reaching fewer people than last week, so here are some things you can do to increase your and it's like, Jesus Christ, oh fuck, it's like if you're in AA and your dealer just texts you like, hey, you want more drugs? You haven't been buying as many drugs
totally
as you
like
used to.
that. I went through that. So a few years ago, there was a documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And that was one of those things that really kind of was eye-opening in the sense of like, we're all being manipulated psychologically in every aspect of our online lives, and even in our real lives. Like every commercial, every billboard you see, everything's trying to invoke an emotion, but like not as art, it's as capitalism. You know what I mean? Like it's trying to manipulate, which always feels kind of icky. And even when you're like the layout of the icons on your phone, like the everyone chooses, like if you're using an Apple app versus if you're using a Google phone versus an Apple phone, the division between green bubble and blue bubble iPhone, that's an emotional manipulation using psychology to show the other, and in The Social Dilemma, they interviewed the people who actually built all of this stuff, right? Like the guy who like changed who was the head of like the Facebook algorithm department that changed. At some point it was chronological, a timeline, which is the most simple thing technologically, just a feed of the date and time something's posted, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then like it was so simple, but it couldn't be manipulated. So there's like they came out and they showed like this whole thing about how like at a certain point they were running psychological experiments on our timelines to see if they could alter our emotional capacities, like to make us angry, make us sad. If you think they are not actively refining that to like the now with AI and all that stuff, you're being constantly manipulated, even for things that you think are good, like the Democrat Occupy Democrats Facebook page and all of these like left-wing things on Facebook. That is also still made to incite you, like nothing is made to calm you. And ironically, TikTok, I'd never felt that. I don't know if the algorithm was different, but my Instagram, my TikTok feed was just, occasionally a political thing, but eventually it just became musicians doing things, comedy bits and nerd things about Dungeons and Dragons and all of my interests. And I'm like, oh, this is delightful. This is kind of, and it would just eat a lot of my time. Whereas when I used to go on Facebook, there would be just a constant stream of like, remember how we would, in the comedy community, it would always happen where there would be like a post that's seemingly innocuous and then comments 387. Yeah. And then it's like, somebody in the comments said some shit. And it starts this whole kind of like, and I'm like, oh. And at a certain point, like it was like, oh, I want to engage. And then I realized how tight my shoulders were. I would turn it to like a car, or I'd be like, I want to interact. And then I would realize, oh, I just could not do that. I never got that with TikTok.
Yeah, I think maybe 2020 election. I forgot, but my God, everything's just all mashed together. I think it was the 2020 election. Was the height of my influence numbers or whatever it is, where it's like I would, because I was very vocal about everything, and I would have Facebook posts that had 300 or sometimes even 500 likes, and then like, I don't remember how many comments, but it was just back and forth, and then it was like, oh my God, I'm the problem.
It's like, oh, this is a nightmare.
Or even sometimes where
I wish I could go back to work at Circuit City.
I think it was like, I think it was one time I had a post that was like 500 reactions or whatever it was. And I was like, I just deleted it. Because it was like,
that's right.
There's no reason. I don't have 500 people I talk to that are interested in what I have to say. Yeah. Nobody. No, it's just I'm feeding into this horrific mentality of our country. So I was like, I'm sorry that some people don't think that Black people should have the same rights as, everybody else.
Yeah.
I got to delete this post.
Right. Like that became a thing. I unfollow, the goal, God, this is going to sound real old man, but it still doesn't feel that old. But in the MySpace days, like when the whole point was it was all about sharing and friends and things like that, like accumulating a following of friends. And then because it genuinely had no ulterior motive in my mind. Like I don't remember it being like, there was no, maybe banner ads. Maybe this was like back in the day of like, now we're talking about 20 years ago, like 25 years ago. 20 years ago, like 2005, I would say was my peak, MySpace days. But it's kind of a lost promise, like of what it was supposed to be. Like social media was supposed to be this like interconnectivity and just like message boards and all that stuff. And then fast forward to Mark Zuckerberg creating a site to determine whether or not girls in his college were hot or not. And now we have mass fascism all over the world. You know what I mean? Like it's like, we've empowered the wrong people. Because at a certain point, it just clout became currency.
Yeah, there was literally a website where you could, I think it was called clout.com or some shit.
Yeah, it was literally clout.
Where you could win prizes for your clout score.
Yeah, that is offensive in some way.
And it's so crazy to think of, like, when you look at MySpace, where that was like legit, the term social media came about because MySpace, Friendster, they were called social media because you were socializing via this new media.
Yeah.
And so then now you have it's just all corporate ads and propaganda, and it's like, oh my God, there's no socializing here.
Yeah. It was like it was the social networking was the first thing, because it wasn't even about media. It wasn't about MySpace was a musician site that you could share music. That was like for bands, right? So for bands could have a place to, like, basically the equivalent of the telephone poles outside in the 80s and 90s on Sunset Strip, that they would just be covered with posters for things. I don't know if you go watch Metal, A Headbanger's Journey or Metal Evolution. They talk about in the glam metal era, people were just posting up flyers with staple guns all over telephone poles, and they were like inches thick with flyers and stuff like that. So MySpace was supposed to be the equivalent of that telephone pole, where people would just post up their bands or their thing. And then eventually you were able to post like some music, like you could share original recordings and demos and things like that, certain limitations. And that's why some people remember MySpace as having the same song playing every time you would go to someone's site, someone's profile. We also learned how to do HTML and like web page encoding because we wanted to pimp out our pages and customize them and stuff.
We gotta have our name in glitter.
We gotta have our, I think the downfall, and this might be a controversial topic, the downfall of social networking became the top 8. When the top 8, they introduced it where you could categorize your friends. Suddenly it became important for you to be on someone's page a certain amount, you know what I mean? At a certain position where someone drops down from, I was at first place, but now I'm third. How dare you? Who is this? And then it creates animosity and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, the downfall of civil. It's like the meme of the first domino.
Yeah,
The giant domino is, Donald Trump declared dictator for life. Like it's like,
I think when it comes to like fitness and stuff, there's so many accounts on like Instagram and TikTok too. TikTok was this weird thing where there's no regulation in regards to factual evidence about so TikTok was just notorious for having bad exercises or inefficient exercises or harmful exercises, plate presses and stuff like that, and drink this cayenne pepper and lemon and it's gonna make you lose weight, and
anything with the word detox in it was like the teas, those fitfluencer booty models that had the slimming teas. That was like the first kind of real. I remember being like just literally having somebody try to sell you something in a post that was overt. It was like them with their big butt and then holding a thing of tea, and that's it. And then it was like, yep, that's it.
And like with like YouTube, I don't know if it's this still the same way, but there was a weird period where I watch a lot of fitness videos and a lot of scientific fitness videos and stuff like that. And one of the things about I've thought about this a lot over the past couple of years with the rise of the Joe Rogans and that kind of thing, and the hyper masculine, toxic masculinity and stuff, where it's like there is, if you study fitness, it is absolutely true that genetics plays a huge part in what you're able to do. But so a lot of these fitness things, YouTube would say, fitness, your genetics plays a huge part. Some people have better genetics, they're more wired for it. And then the next thing I knew was like, white race is the master race because of genetics. And it was like, I don't want this in my feed.
It's like everything goes to 1,000 real quick. And you're just like, no. There's nuance to it. I think the biggest problem is that social marketing at this stage, because it's not even social media, it's just social marketing, has removed all nuance from certain aspects of like humanity, right? When you talk about, as somebody who's always been working on their diet, right? Like as somebody who is, I was a fat kid, and then when I played football, it was encouraged to be big, and then you gain as much weight as you can and be as big, as strong as you can. And then you go into the real world and you realize, adults don't always know what they're like, aren't acting in my best interest, because in no way was me being a 300-pound teenager beneficial for me in the real world. Like if the only way that's beneficial is if I go to the NFL, what a slim margin of life to live. It's like, this is only good if you play professional sports. And it's like, what are the chances of that happening? 0.001. And then it's like, what about the other 99.9%? And they're like, well, it's going to suck for you. You're going to be a Great Dane of a person and get back problems at 25.
I think about that all the time when I see like 40-year-old, 50-year-old, I guess not even 40-year-old dudes anymore, like 50-year-old and 60-year-old dudes who like grew up in that like bygone era where it was like, I'm going to train just like I did when I was in high school. And they keep that same frame. And it's like, hey, man, you're not a football player anymore. Right. These aren't the glory days. All this excess weight is killing your knees and hips and everything else. And you have a layer of fat over all your organs. And it's like, hey, man.
Yeah.
But it was like trained in their brain from these, like, at the time, their 50-year-old dudes were teaching them in high school, like, hey, look this way. But meanwhile, that was the long term. It's terrible if you're not going to be an NFL player.
Like, Right. Like my wife and I talk about this when we talk about like what our fitness goals are. And it's like, we have to eat like, because there's always that conversation of like, do we eat more meat, less meat, red meat, chicken, all that stuff. And there's always somebody talking, like our bodies evolved to chase our game across the tundra, right? Like
Mm.
our bodies evolved to like use tools to fish out of the river. Like we didn't evolve to have a choice in what we ate, right? Because that, like, genuinely, like we didn't evolve to choose where it's like, oh, I'm gonna whatever was hunted, you ate. Like that was the whole point. And I'm talking about just like basic evolution, right? Like
Yeah.
we one of the reasons why we evolved the way we did is because we had a benefit over other species in terms of running long distances. So like our whole if evolution, our bodies are evolved to run 4 miles, potentially days, till the thing that we want to kill gets tired so we can eat it, so we can kill it and eat it. And like that's why humanity exists. Other stuff has happened between that point and this point, but our biology has not evolved too much past that, right? Like that's technically like true. So in terms of what we eat now, we were never blessed with an overabundance the way we are now. Ironically enough, everything we eat now has less actual nutrition, I think, but
Well,
I don't know.
I saw this video with a food scientist, and it was kind of enlightening the way they put it, which is that people always talk about, oh, the back in the primeval days, and our ancestors would only eat meat and blah blah blah, and nowadays we have all these chemicals and blah blah blah. And they said, here's the thing about humanity is that we are human trash compactors.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know where our next meal was going to come from for so many millennia. So it's literally our body has developed in a way that we can digest an abundance of things, aside from very few cases like celiac disease or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And even like the idea of like lactose intolerance, it's weird because the default is actually lactose intolerance because after a while but certain cultures, mostly European, that were able to domesticate, cows and sheep and goats, they needed to that was the only consumption they had was this dairy, and so they were able to build up a tolerance to it. So it's actually they're the outliers, but it's that idea that we were able to evolve. It's because we're trash compactors.
Yeah, there's and here's the thing about social media. The second you start looking up stuff about like how we evolve genetically, immediately you start getting like eugenics is good, like videos. You're like, Jesus Christ, there's nuance, man. There's nuance to this thing. Please do not just give me eugenics videos. No, thank you. But the truth of the matter is that evolution is the result of just genetics, and genetics times environment, genetics plus environment times time. That's
the whole like epigenetics thing where it goes to like, yeah.
If it's, I'm sorry, I'm clearing my throat. We are not evolved to process the toxins in the air in Los Angeles. My windows have been closed for so long. I'm ready to like rip my walls off, the plaster off my walls. The cabin fever is driving me crazy because I'm taking the air quality warnings seriously.
Do you do the thing where you roll up the towel and put the towel under the windowsill and duct tape the
not to that extent, but I mean I should. I don't have like very heavy smoke in my area. It's just technically the air quality alert is over.
Oh.
But like it's still present and prevalent, and the winds are going to pick up again. So it's like, here we go again. And again, one of the reasons we can have these conversations about what diet we should be eating and choosing and all that stuff is because we've enabled us to live through the things that would have killed us as children.
Yeah.
Right. We talk about this thought has the fact that we are like medical babies, like we're still babies in terms of like understanding our own bodies. Go back to a bunch of episodes ago where it was like, yeah, the practice of modern medicine has only been around for, and forget about modern medicine, modern fitness is even younger. Like what it means to take care of our bodies, aside from just the medicine we give it when it's dying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's even younger. So like we're all babies, right? So you have to it's the equivalent to every, like when you're on the playground as little kids and someone would tell you something and they would believe it wholeheartedly, and then that would be in your head forever. You know what I mean?
Marilyn Manson took out one of his ribs.
Yeah.
Also, he's the kid from the Wonder Years. I don't know if you knew that too.
He was the kid from the Wonder Years. None of that's true, by the way. None of that's true. He's just a vile sexual predator.
The kid from the Wonder Years?
The kid from the Wonder Years. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. It's pretty terrible that this is the stuff that like that you would hear about, little things, innocuous things, but like but
now because there are jump edits, you take them seriously.
Not only that, like social media has allowed this dumb playground talk to spread all over the world, where people are like, I don't know, the earth is kind of, isn't it I'm just asking questions here. It's like, no, the earth is round. Science is a method of discovering the natural world. The metaphysical and the there's no evidence for the supernatural. If there is, man, do you like, I would love if there was evidence of a mystical, magical force that we could use. You know what I mean? Because you know that then there would be like someone would be like influencing to tell you that it's not real. You know what I mean? Like there would just always be contrarians. But if there was a real supernatural force that guided our lives, I would be praying to it constantly. I would be its biggest prophet, because that's the most powerful force in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Please, I beseech you, great powerful force, turn me into a Jedi, please. You know,
man, I saw this. Ricky Gervais told a street joke, and he told it to Jerry Seinfeld. I think I sent it to you, where he goes, Holocaust survivor goes up to God. God says, "Hey, you know, tell me a Holocaust joke." Wait, how's it go?
No, he goes. So he goes. A Holocaust survivor lives to old age, finally passes away, goes to heaven, and when he meets God, he tells him a Holocaust joke, and God says, "That's not funny," and he's like, "Well, I guess you had to be there."
Boom!
Right? Like there's so many layers to that joke, and it forces like a conversation. Look, there's so much going on about, like, I don't believe in God, but God exists as a concept, right? Like those are two different things. I don't think religions are correct, but they exist and exert incredible power over their followers.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't believe the tenets of a religion are true, but Israel exists and is at war with Gaza, you know, and is occupying Gaza over purely human like greed, right? Like that's basically what it is. So whether or not religions are real don't matter, because people believe them to be true. Whether or not fitness things are like, it doesn't matter what's true or what's not. People believe these things, and that has to be taken into account. So when a fitness person or a mental health professional or one of these crystal Reiki energy healers comes up and tells you something, there's nothing to back it up but your belief, like your belief in it. And that's kind of how the world works, unfortunately, right? Like that's how it works.
Yeah, one of the problems with the fitness influencers is that somebody can look, especially if they're very young, six-pack abs, athlete their whole life. And so now they say, follow me and I'll teach you how to look just like me. And then but it falls into the thing of, if you ever wanted to get a dentist, you wouldn't walk up to a random person on the street with really good teeth and be like, hey, will you work on my teeth? Because your teeth look good. So I want my teeth to look like your teeth. So could you be my dentist? That's not what happens.
Could you be my dentist? see, this is my first thought is we should go onto the street and just talk to people. Hey, you have really nice teeth. Could you do dental work on me? And then watch the reality of people be like, no. And it's like, then why would anybody who just goes to the gym and looks good and is 20 years old and has always had a six-pack be the one to tell you how to do it? Like, it's that idea of like, if you want to take advice on getting sober, are you going to talk to somebody who's never had a drink?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sure they have something that they could bring to the conversation, but they don't have firsthand knowledge of that process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
no. People ask me like, what should I do? I want to get a personal trainer. What should I look for? And I tell them like, hey, ask to see their stretch marks. If they have stretch marks, but they're still in shape, that's the one you want.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. The truth, I used to have a joke about that where I would talk about like how at some point I was, over 300 pounds, 325 pounds. And then I lost at one point in my life, I lost like 100 pounds pretty quickly.
Nice.
And it was just literally eating the same thing every day and jumping rope. That was my big exercise. I would do that
rope as a 300-pound dude.
Yo. So I'm not saying I was good at it at the beginning, but I come from a martial arts background where that was like our warm up. So I was like, let me just do it. And then I would get kind of meditative. You get kind of in a flow state where after a while I would, you mess up, you trip up and you just keep going. You trip up, you get tired, you walk a little bit. After a while, I got to the point where I would just keep going. I would get to the half hour. I would be like, I'm going to be out here doing this for half an hour. Whether I was actively doing it or not, I was out there trying for half an hour. And then I got to the point where I could do it pretty regularly, and I was doing double unders and I was doing crosses and I was doing stuff still at like heavy. But because I had like football background, like a real strong lower body, like posterior chain, I could handle a lot of that weight. I was probably doing damage to myself, but it was all calf, like all toe. You're not jumping rope on your heels.
Yeah.
So it was less damaging, and it actually kind of helped my posture a little bit. But it was also like holding your core tight, holding your shoulders tight. And again, we get to the point where I get to like 45 minutes and I'd be like, oh, okay, great. I'd be gassed, but I was jumping rope for 45 minutes. Anyway, I lost 100 pounds. I went from like 325 to like 215. And one of the joke I would say is that it's like, I would say that, and then since then I've heard other comics say it, but it was like, I would say that at one point in my life I lost 100 pounds, and people would have always applaud that for some reason. I'd be like, you don't know if that's true. I can, if you're lying, and then it's because no one's gonna be that much of a dick about it. Where they're like, oh, I just lost 100 pounds. Bullshit. Prove it. Show me pictures in your phone. Lift up that shirt. Show me that loose skin. Like, and because it's true. Like, if you do go through any kind of dramatic physical change, there will be, at the very least, remnants.
Yeah.
Your stretch marks, loose skin, even something is like surgical scars for different things. Like people who lost a lot of weight because of COVID, they would lose weight so quickly that they would lose elasticity in their skin. And COVID was such like a brutal systemic disease that it was like, the lack of oxygen really like destroys every tissue in your body. So they're like, oh, my joints are bad now because of COVID. Oh, my lungs are bad. My brain, all of it gets affected. So that was like where you could see people are like, oh, their bodies tell their story regardless of how much improvement they've done since then.
You know what's funny? For the past couple of years, I've been taking my physical, and whenever I get weighed, I weigh like two. I think my last one was actually just in December. It was like 206, 205, something like that. And everybody always goes, I've basically been the same, around 200 pounds for the past couple of years. And everybody always goes, wow, I thought you were going to weigh a lot more. Like, not like that I'm fat, but they were like, just because like the size density, of you look muscle so much density, bigger. Yeah. But it's actually not even muscle. It's I found this out, which is that when you are fat, your fat cells are bigger, and or more of them or something like that, where it's like you never lose that. It's like it's always there. So whenever you do gain more weight, they're like, "Hey, I'm here again. I've been here." But
Yeah.
when you don't have, it's like it still looks like you're bigger than you actually are,
That's
and you're like
the
more prone to gain weight in the future.
yeah, there's so much. I don't know. This is going off of personal anecdotal evidence, right?
Yeah.
I was a fat kid,
Hmm.
and at some point, the muscle growth that I did in high school was able to like be more pronounced. Was more. Had much more strength without getting that much more size. I think in a variety of ways because my body was used to being heavy.
Yeah.
So some of that muscle was already developing on its own through puberty and having to carry the weight of a chubby kid.
Yeah.
And then and as I grew, because having extra height, one of the things also is, have you done a bone density test recently?
I have a body comp scale which is not completely accurate, but it gives me a basic idea.
Bone density for heavy people is a real thing. Like big bone, like your
Yeah.
body takes more impact. And like if you ever look at those martial artists that break boards and all that stuff,
Yeah.
their bones in their hands and in the in their shins also, like Muay Thai fighters and all that stuff, because of the constant impact. That's why like construction workers and like blue collar workers have like really intense grip strengths and stuff like that. Like blacksmiths, they all have intense bone density because your bones also have to grow. One of my favorite horrible activities is looking up arm wrestling videos. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, so many snaps.
There's always some horrific injury because it goes from 0 to 100 when like it's like and I'm always watching the video of like you know,
all these dudes look like Popeye because they got the one big forearm.
They got the one giant arm. Here's the thing: those muscles may be strong as hell, but the bones, because the training isn't impact, the bones don't get as dense. So like when I was doing martial arts and football and everything was impact with a big 6'3" body with a ton of muscle weight and fats and all these things. They did like a bone thing for me, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm like legitimately big boned.
Yeah.
Like I have thick, dense bones. And it's like that will always then weigh more. Like, so there's a certain amount of weight that is carried by your bones. And if you're heavy in your life, especially in your developmental years, like your puberty, prepubescent, and then into like any of the times where you're most physically active, you will develop denser bones, like the thicker, like because what happens is that they form more connections inside the actual bone tissue to protect the marrow, which is where your blood gets produced.
And it's
so
delicious.
It's delicious, yeah.
It's funny. I was actually thinking about that recently because a couple days ago I broke my right pinky toe, and I was thinking how funny it is that I was just so nonchalant about it, where I was like, my pinky toe broke, because I've broken my pinky toe a couple times on both feet, and then I started thinking about like how weird is it that I've never broken any other bone other than my pinky toe, and I was thinking,
you've broken it before?
Yeah, I broke my pinky because of just a klutz. With big giant feet that trip over things all the time. And I was like, I wonder if it's because I was such a fat kid that my bone density grew so much that anytime I fell, I never broke a bone. Occasionally I hurt a joint or a ligament or whatever it is, but it was like the bone itself was fine. And I'm like, is it just because I was a huge fat kid who had thick fucking bones?
That is literally it. It has to be, right? Like if that's how bones work, that's how it has to be, and the problem is that as you carry more weight, your joints suffer but your bones strengthen, or maybe not. I like that's the thing of like, what does all of this mean? Because it's like we're all unique little snowflakes, right? No one person is, even twins like are genetically exact copies. You will see the mileage vary, you know what I'm saying? And the thought, the mindsets differ and all that stuff. So every single, like, to anyone who says like, oh, here's the universal truth about fitness and exercise, there's no specificity. It can't be. It cannot be specific. It has to be as vague as possible. The problem is that people don't want vague. They want, what is the answer for me, right? And it's like, well, the answer for you is to eat fewer calories than you burn, and burn more calories, and eat the calories that you do eat, make sure that they're fueling your body properly. And then people are like, what does that mean? And they'll be like, well, that's unique for each person. What depends on what. And then people are like, no, somebody answer but the question exactly. Here's a drop of my blood. Give me a genetic readout for the, like they want that instant light switch answer. And that's how you get opportunistic snake oil salesmen on social media getting on there and saying, drink your own piss or whatever. I hate those videos, gross me out so much. But it's like, that's not a fake thing, by the way. If you're watching this, there's a whole contingent of people who are just saying the most out of pocket shit as fitness influencers. And because everyone has now been trained to be like, well, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to know that, but okay, you're listening, someone's telling you to drink piss, you know what I mean? Like, come on.
There's also this thing online where it's like, if you're a guy, you have to do these exercises. If you're a girl, you have to do these exercises. And I had somebody ask me about it, and it's they said, well, she was like, I want to get in shape, but what are some exercises I could do as a woman? And I was like, any of them: squat, bench press, deadlift. And I said, it's not so much about gender as it is goal. Because, for instance, if you have like a 20-year-old bikini competitor, she's going to train a certain way. Yes. If you have a 30-year-old power lifter, she's going to train a certain way. If you're a 40-year-old mother who just wants to have confidence on the beach on your, summer vacation with your kids, whatever it is, like, that's a totally different goal too. So it's like, I'm not going to say, oh, you're a woman, you have to do hip thrusts.
Yeah. Like, the irony is, of course, when people say they don't want to work out, they don't want to lift weights because they don't want to get big.
Yeah.
And I love that video. I don't remember which video, who was it said it. They're like, you won't get big. There are people who dedicate their entire daily life to getting as big as possible, and even they can't get there. So you are not going to accidentally the Mike Israel, he's like, yeah, so the epidemic of women turning into the Hulk after working out once. It's like, it's not going to happen. It's a slow progress. It's a practice the way meditation is a practice. It's a practice the way language is a practice. It's a practice, all of that stuff. So there's so much to break down when it comes to like individual workouts. It's like, how about you start? Oh, we got somebody on Twitch. Who's this? King Nick 007. Hello. We're talking about fitness. We're talking about rethinking gym culture and how if you improve one part of your body, one part of your life, other parts will also be collaterally benefited. If you have anything you'd like to share, please share in the chat. But yeah, like if you're seeking to work out, if you're seeking to become a power lifter, that can give you like a breakdown of like, these exercises will be more beneficial in that way.
Yeah,
if you're seeking to become a bodybuilder, those exercises are also very different.
It's kind of like the thing we've talked about it before, where people are like, "Oh, don't do deadlifts; they're going to hurt you." It's like, if you're doing training to be a power lifter and you're doing 1 to 3 reps. Or especially like if you're doing 1 rep, that's like a ridiculous amount of strain you're putting on your body. But is that your goal? Or is it your goal that you just want to be able to pick things up off the ground? And it's like, well, if that's the case, go for that rep range of 12 to 30.
Like
lighter
really
weight.
Burn. Yeah, like really. It's also like, are you working out for another activity, like a functional?
Yeah.
Like the arm wrestler guys, if you're going to be doing arm wrestling, then training the non-wrestling arm is less important to you, and you're going to sit there in that one machine in the gym that you're just like clang, 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 like the whole time you're just literally doing this, and no other exercise is important. Like that's what you do, and you will gain the benefits. You will, like, that's the struggle I'm at right now, where I want to improve the old man things, right? having back injury stuff, like all of these little things. My body has been writing checks for years, and now in my 40s, they're all just getting cash. They're all like coming, like, oh, I forgot I wrote that check. God, I need to cover. Like that's how it feels. Like, okay, so if I do a certain amount of exercise for my back, that's just maintenance at this point. That's just getting back to zero.
Yeah.
So I don't know. King Nick, we will not gratuitously flex for you, but if you catch moments where we might be flexing, please clip the aspects of. Yeah.
I never do that.
I would never do. I don't. Yeah. I don't know if that's appropriate.
Oh my God. So
we would never do that. We would never do that. But sorry to let you down. Nick, if you are working out, if you have any fitness goals, please let us know what they are, and we will join in. If you're watching now from on any of the other platforms, let us know what your goals are, because then maybe we'll have a workout for you. We will tell you what workouts will be appropriate without fail. Also, guaranteed results.
If you could comment under using specific keywords, specifically not Nazi adjacent keywords. Happy, goal setting,
positive. This is all about improving your mind, body, and fitness.
Yeah,
done. Hello, thank you. What's good? You want to know what's good? You are for joining us today.
Yeah.
And we're talking about in the year of our Lord 2025. There's the body, mind, and community aspects of this show are going to be extra prevalent, like extra. We're gonna have to try extra hard to kind of have a unity of those things, right? Like, what are your fitness goals? Like you want to be an arm wrestler, a power lifter, or do you want to survive the upcoming martial law police state that will be who knows what's going on. But the truth is that whatever your goals are, what's that saying? The best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The second best time is now, right?
Yeah.
So, whatever your goals are, you should definitely share with them. Send us an email. If you don't want to comment live, you can share it with us at zerosonheroes@gmail.com, and we will talk about it. And you can find us at Mike Mercadal and at William A. Watkins on the social media platforms. And we'll talk about it on the show, and we'll help you out. Spirey Don. I want to bench 140 kilograms this year. What is that? Wait, what is 140 kilograms in pounds? 140 kilograms is 308.
Ooh,
okay,
nice.
So you want to get to as a resident fitness expert. You've changed. You used to be about much heavier weight, and that feels like a big goal. Spyridon, just how much do you weigh, just so we know, just to see how much of your body weight that is 140 kilograms of your mass total body weight.
Today, what do you think? I did a 360 on the bench today, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't even realize I was doing that much because I haven't maxed out in a long time.
Whoa. Wow.
And I was like, oh my God.
So Spyry Don, he's 80 kilograms, 176 pounds,
nice.
And doing, or I don't know what their gender. I bench 130K now. That's
nothing fucking more than respectful right there. Jesus Christ.
What is it? If you bench over 225 pounds, you're in the top 95% of the Earth population. If you can do more than 102 kilograms,
I think it's
you're like
10%
stronger
or something.
Yeah. You're in the top 5% of the world. What an accomplishment. That's fantastic. Yeah. Great work. In order to get, so you're going from very high to a little higher.
Uh-huh.
Is there something that that Spyridon can focus on to get that extra little bit out? Or is it going to be the next few months of slow progress?
I'm saying whatever we say, Spyridon already probably knows it. Yes. To get to that, that's a fucking good number. But I mean, it comes down to just progressive overload. If you want to, change up, modalities and stuff like that, where it's, throwing some, couple weeks of drop sets, throwing a couple weeks of mechanical drop sets, throwing a couple, Give yourself an off week of, if you want to hit bench, give yourself an off week of that and switch to accessory exercises.
Right. Yeah. Well,
It's
that's also like there's a lot of the talk about like benching in form, like those people who do like the super arched back bench
yeah.
versus like a more traditional, like what I would consider traditional bench with like a more flat like leg drive kind of,
Yeah.
like with less leg drive, more just like like isolated movement, which over time has destroyed my shoulder, by the way. But it's always the left shoulder that everybody complains about. But the you would then kind of, so progressive overload, what does that look like in terms of like a functional workout?
Progressive overload is basically, you know, you could also just call it novel stimulus of a muscle,
Hmm.
where, the classic Greek story of the guy who was a kid and he put a calf on his back and he walked up a hill, and as the calf got bigger, he got
Hmm.
stronger, and just it constantly goes up and up and up and up. And that's basically what it is. It's just novel stimulus to the muscle. But you could throw on 2.5 pounds every week or 5 pounds every
Like
week.
just over every workout, slowly incrementally add until
Yeah.
you get there.
Or you change it up, where instead of doing barbell press, you switch it up and you do dumbbell press, or you get on the cables and you do like a cable press. Because, man, that's fucking great. I'm a huge fan of emphasizing the stretch,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you pause at the stretch and then pause at the contraction, where it's just, really get that time under tension where it just constantly builds.
Mm.
And then, like, do a week of cables, and then next week do a week of dumbbells, and then next week go back to barbells and see
Mhm.
if that was able to get you out of a plateau.
Yeah, there's an element of like what because I'm farther removed from that
Yeah.
mentally than I've ever been. Like I'm remembering the only thing that I had when I could do the only thing that I had that I could do when I was younger was literally just like all the stuff that was bad for you. You know what I mean? Like my first thought is like, how about you just do it, you pussy? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
just throw 100 fucking 40. How much is it? 140 kilograms. Just do it. Throw it on
Yeah.
there and fail until you don't. Like that's the kind of thing that like, because I keep thinking about with like when I was doing heavyweight, I was my young mind
Yeah.
was the one. Oh, that's very nice, Spirey Don. Thanks, boys. I can you guys are very educated. By
Ooh.
you guys, it will. Thank you, will. Um but it's true. Like I have to, the mindset is kind of pick a plan and work the plan. And if the plan is not getting you the results, you have to have worked the plan a certain amount of time to really test it,
Hmm.
and then you can change the modality. If what Spyridon isn't doing isn't getting them over the edge, um, adding the cables to just increase the stretch may add the extra ability to give it put them over the top. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So drop sets, even I've never done it, but have you done workout with chains, with like the heavy chains? Because as you go down, the weight decreases, and as you go up, it increases. So you're getting more of a load at the end of the press than
Yeah.
at the bottom. Is there any kind of benefit to that? Any merit to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they have actual machines, like a pendulum squat is one,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, you can also do a similar thing where if you change up the angle of a bench, you're doing something similar as well. Or you can add bands
Mm.
onto, like, if you're going to do like a barbell, add some bands, attach it to the
Yes.
actual
Yes.
bench, to the bar. And as you go up, it's going to have more tension. As you go down, it's going to have less tension. As you go up, it's going to have more tension.
Hmm.
I mean, that's basically also kind of what you're doing with cables, which is why I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
cables.
I had a lot of I would get a lot of muscle failure at certain ranges.
Yeah.
That was like my big problem with getting my max bench at, even as heavy as I was only around like 315, 325.
Dude, that's not only Jesus.
Well, no, I was like 290, like, and I was like, man, I should be stronger than this. And I would get to the like middle point of the lift and where the failure point, and I could never get it over the top. And I think that if I had focused on the weight the load being at the end of the lift, like you're talking about with cables or with bands, maybe that would have improved my overall progress, because whatever's activating at that level, whatever else I'm turning on at the failure point, would have gotten that extra bit of work, that extra bit of growth. And you know, like I think about my strength, my how quote unquote weak my bench was when I played football compared to other people, and I've always been like, man, I wonder if I would have been able to get my bench over a certain amount, over 350. Imagine if I would have got to 400-pound bench, which not impossible, you know, like with proper training and diet on stuff, it wouldn't have been possible. I was squatting like 450, so it was like I could have done more, and that was repped out 450. I was never allowed to max because they were afraid of how heavy it would go. You know, it is a school-based thing, and it was like you know, they didn't want to call 911 because one of their students had their back blown out. That's not the right word, but that's not the right phrase. He herniated his disc. Yeah, he got his back blown out.
Oh, he goes to a Catholic school, huh? All right.
I mean, it was Christian religious school. I mean, who knows?
But yeah, if you wanted to emphasize the stretch and you wanted to really take it to failure, or get some dumbbells, and then with that, you're like, I can't do anymore. Pulse at the bottom, like pulse.
Oh, interesting.
Because then you're like stretching out the muscle, and you just, you know, it's partial reps basically is what you're doing, and just, you know, pulse it out, and then let it go down. Give yourself a few minutes. Do the same thing.
Stretch.
Yeah, doing. You know, like if you're doing a barbell press and you're like, I can't go anymore, I'm failing, just do this. But with the dumbbells, just keep it like right there. Try to touch the dumbbell to like where your shoulder meets your chest, and just like leave it, pulse it. You know, do like you're at a club in the 90s. You know, like.
Oh man, we love the interaction, Spyridon. Thank you. Follow us, man. Come back and tell us about your journey, where you are, where you're from.
Yeah, if you could hit that'd be dope.
That would be great, Spyridon. Shout out to you. Shout out to King Nick for being a part of the show today. And again, we refuse to flex on command. We refuse. Yeah, there's no way we're gonna do any of that. There's no way. The truth of it all is that we have a lot to work on this year. You know, it's going to be an interesting one for people with sound mind and hopefully sound body. That's what that's kind of what the show is all about: sound mind, sound body, and then sharing it with everyone else. We talked last week about the new year mentality, right? The whole new year, new you. What our goals were going to be for 2025, not necessarily as a resolution, but like for the overall year, not for the week. But now we're getting back into the specifics of it. Let's talk about, you know, just to recap on this show, we talk about the body, the mind, and the community, how improving one, and how improving one will improve the others, right? You know, the triangle. You improve your body and your mind, and you're going to be more motivated to interact with the world more positively. If you improve your mind and your relationships, that'll motivate you. Use that as motivation to improve your body, et cetera, et cetera. And in unexpected ways too. I'm always happy when like somebody, like I was talking to somebody at work, and they were like, "Oh, I went to the gym," and they were talking about plants. And all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to start a little garden." I was like, what an interesting way to have benefited your life, because they're afraid of the oncoming grocery prices. So they're like, here's a way to do a garden on your balcony. And I'm like, oh, great. That's cool. But anyway, Will, do you have any goals now that we're balls deep into 2025? Is there anything that you are working on in this next week, your immediate focus for your body?
My body, my immediate focus. It always ebbs and flows, the diet. And it's not necessarily that I've been eating bad foods. I don't think I've been eating enough good foods,
Ooh, interesting.
It's not, I enjoy good sugary food and everything, but I also I really look at my diet and I was like, I'll eat like broccoli and carrots or whatever it is. I'm like, I really need to eat really nutritious like vegetable, because I do eat a lot of protein in
Yeah.
various forms, peanuts and legumes and lentils and shit ton of chicken. But it's like I really need to focus on like getting more salads. I don't eat salads. Like most of my vegetables just come
Yeah.
from like a steamed broccoli or vegetable medley or whatever it is. So
Mm.
it's like I want to like consume more, which is like weird to say that you want to like
It's
eat
true.
more things.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Spyry Don, thank you for following everybody. If you're seeing this in the future on YouTube
Oh,
and Facebook or whatever, thank you, Spyry Don, for following us on Twitch. And he says that he'll send a video over when he hits his max bench. That would be
yeah,
great.
dude.
Awesome. I would love to see that. Everybody share your PRs, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
And we will catch you next time, Spyry Don. Follow us on the social media to be notified when we go live. We try to do this every Sunday right around this time to start your week off right, wherever you are in the world. And in terms of like starting your week off right, the diet is it everybody does say, like in Spanish, la dieta empieza el lunes, the diet starts on Monday. Everybody says that they're waiting for some particular future fixed point in time to start whatever it is they're doing. Start now. Just start now. If I would recommend, in terms of diet, in terms of like adding vegetables to your like more nutritious feeling things. I'm a forever proponent of Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts. Adding like hard cheeses, like the hard white cheeses, which are less lactose, less of the bad stuff. Also carry a little bit of protein. I'm a big fan of
hard
feta.
cheeses have more protein than the highest density of protein in any food is Parmesan cheese.
But I'm telling you, man, throw some feta, throw some Parmesan, throw some of that stuff onto some roasted Brussels sprouts. There's a thing, there was a trend going around online on social media, which we shit on so much earlier, but it did introduce me to the idea of roasted salads, where you essentially make like or dense bean salads. That's what we do here in my house. We every night I work overnight. My wife packs a delicious salad, but it has 3 types of beans in there. It has tons of like spinach. It has tomato, of course, and things like that, and feta. And it is like this super dense salad, and chicken. It has chicken in it. And it has like super dense, high protein and full of like flavors that isn't just like, oven baked chicken and steamed broccoli. It has all of that stuff, but in other form factors.
Yo, send that recipe over. Post it up on the
I will post it up. I will post it on the account. Follow us. I don't want to promote Meta anymore, but follow us on Blue Sky. We're on Blue Sky. That's where I'm going to do all of the zeros. I'm going to really revamp the zeros on heroes on Blue Sky so we can have that be one of our main feeds. The good goal is that's your plan for the week, is to find new ways to eat the better foods for you. Yeah. So make the good foods less like healthful and feel like a better treat. Nice. Okay. For me, I'm gonna work on I want to work on some flexibility and body weight training. I've been pretty stagnant. Flexibility. I've been working on I sit so much at my job, and I'm trying to figure out like what I can do not at the gym to really kind of add a little bit of activity interspersed throughout my shifts. Like as a healthcare worker, I work 12 hours. That's a long time to just be kind of in one place and doing the same kind of repetitive motions and sitting and repetitive, like there's a lot of the same kind of activity. How do I increase my flexibility and or my butt? Essentially, I got to do butt exercises. I got to do hip thrusts in a way that won't get me fired or sent to HR. I got to figure out a way to do some squats at work, or maybe maybe I can use my backpack as like an impromptu kettlebell.
Yeah, dude.
And do some little kettlebell swings interesting. But we'll say, in my goal for the week is to find ways to just do a physical activity or action that is exercise based, not just like, whatever, like bang out 10 push-ups or when in on a commercial break on TV or whatever, or like do 10 squats, when my watch tells me to stand up, I'm not going to stand. I'm going to do, squats. I'm going to do,
Do
something.
some high knees, butt kickers.
Yeah. I want to go be the weirdo on my balcony going like, yeah. But yeah, we'll do that. Insert activities here. That's where I want to call it. Will, what about your mind? Is there anything you're going to be doing to kind of improve your mind?
Whew. All right, my mind. I've been very busy with work, and I'm taking a class, and I think I do need to detach from reality. When in my little off time that I do have, I need to disassociate from life.
I feel like that's going to be a like blanket statement for 2025. Hey, I just need a break from reality for a little bit. I just need to not be aware of all of the things that are terrible.
Because it's not like, it sounds ridiculous. It's like, stop living in a fantasy. It's like, actually, it's very beneficial to live in a fantasy for a short period of time.
You need a little burst of fantasy. Shout out to Skeleton Crew. That was my little break for the last couple weeks.
Literally about to say that.
It's such a good show.
Oh
it's such a good, fun little show. Oh man, we got to do Zeros on Heroes again. Stay tuned, everybody. We're gonna have an episode of Zeros on Heroes where we talk about just our nerd shit to revive the classic.
Dude,
podcast.
I'm down for that if you want to.
We're doing it for sure. We'll talk about it after the show.
Yeah.
But detaching from reality and using that is an aspect of something that I think social media, people think they're detaching from reality, but they're latching onto an artificial reality.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's what it feels like. Like nobody, all those people those lifestyle influencers, those people who they live their whole life creating content and sharing their kids and all that stuff, and now all the kids that have grown up are like suing their parents. Be like, I didn't fucking want this. Like that's fake reality. It's the reality TV reality.
There's a difference between escaping reality and being delusional.
Yes, that's true. That's a fair detached from reality, not delusion. That not be delusional,
Yeah,
because,
it's enjoying the fantastical versus living in a fantasy.
Yeah. Give me an example of something that like of what that would look like for you coming up this week. Like, what are your, like, when things start to get heavy in the real world, where are you gonna go?
Oh, my go-to is I'm not a huge video game person, but it literally is like a huge escape. Where it's like right now I'm playing Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War, which is a sequel to that one.
Yeah.
And it's literally just like
Lord of the Rings.
You're a half ranger, half wraith who's killing a bunch of fucking orcs. It's like it's a very hack and slash game, but it's fun. And it just, there's no mental, I need the strategy. It's just kill fucking things. It's great.
Yeah. I love a good, for me, my go-to game has been Final Fantasy Rebirth, which is Final Fantasy VII. Well, one of the things is that it's like a throwback to a game I played when I was young. Like I was a big Final Fantasy VII guy, and I completely get it, man. Sometimes the world is bad right now, so I want to go back to this fake world where it's bad on purpose with some power fantasy of making it better. Mm-hmm. What I am doing is affecting change in the video game. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when I play Red Dead Redemption 2, which is probably my favorite game of all time.
I need to play. I still haven't played that. It's on the list.
Bro, it's so good. It's one of those things that you play as an experience, and you want, like, you grow attachments to the character where you want to redeem your character. The redemption part is such an important part of the story, and you watch your honor grow the more you do good deeds. And you watch it go down when you do something bad, and it's like, man, like there's a true life to that sort of thing.
I didn't know that was a part of the game, man. I'm like hyped for that one,
dude. We'll talk about it as you play, because I don't want to. That's one of those things in life that I wish I could experience again for the first time. Same as like watching Endgame in the theater for the first time again. You know what I mean? Like watching Iron Man in the theater for the first time again. Like not knowing what I was in for. You know, like certain things I would love to be able to experience again for the first time, and the only way to do that is through other people. Like maybe we could do an episode of Mike Contextualizes the Universe, which is a show I did with our friend Alex Murray about the Marvel Universe, about Red Dead Redemption 2 as you're playing through.
Yeah,
and then we can talk about it, because that would be, I would love to do that, because it is such a fun kind of it's such a good story. It's such a good game, and it's one of those games that I would classify as art. But yeah, that's a great, living in escaping reality does feel like a solid mental exercise for anyone for this week. I really think my ADHD brain, my neurodivergent brain needs some more order. So I'm going to try and structure my time better on my free time. I'm taking a class too as well. I'm doing, I'm at the UCB, I'm doing comedy again, or improv again. And I want to structure the time better so that when I'm out, I can go do more things. And I want to kind of give my brain a blueprint or some sort of context to really kind of like develop. I'm trying to think of the word, not blueprint, but it's like schematic, some sort of like organizational chart to exist in for my time. So I don't want to feel like I'm wasting time, because that's bad. That always makes me feel so guilty. So rather than not feel guilty about it, I'm just going to not waste my time. Structure my time. That's what I'll say. And I'll say that's also like one of the things I'm doing for the community. These classes that I do improv, I really enjoy, even if it doesn't lead to anything, because you get to kind of be around like-minded people. It's very collaborative. I'm going to really kind of enjoy that, try and build out those relationships that I'm starting now in these classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to see. I really plan on like using this kind of class as a kind of a way to build friendships, and community in this context, in the comedy context.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you take into the world?
Basically, almost very similar to what you're doing. I'm taking this carpentry class on Saturdays. It's like 8-hour class, which is
fun.
It's in theory, it is good. There's a part of it where it's like, it's basically what I do at work. So it is like an extra 8 hours of work every week, which kind of sucks. So, I took a whole day away from myself, but it is a thing where it's like I'm meeting all these people from different backgrounds and stuff, where it's even like, I don't know, I felt like I was intimidated going into the class, where I was like, I don't have like carpenter skills. I'm not, if you asked me to build a house, I couldn't do it. But it's like, then I met a bunch of people in here who I'm like one of the more knowledgeable people in the class.
Oh, interesting.
Just from like what I picked up in life. Where I was teaching people how to like, take a nail out of a board and use a hammer and use a power drill and stuff. And, when he was just like, it was going all over the place. Hey, I got to put some pressure on it. And,
interesting. So I love the idea that you thought you would be the one in need of education, and you've done your part to then help educate those around you who are also, like learning. Like I love that. I love that you knew more than you thought you did.
Yeah.
And you also got to show it to other people. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was like one kid was on a miter saw, and he was just like, he had the board there ready to cut. And he was just like, looked like a deer in the headlights. And I was like, you need some help, man? And he was like, yeah, man, how do I use this thing? And I was like, all right, yeah, you gotta line up the thing. And it's like, oh yeah. So it's like, at the same time, I'm like learning, I'm also like helping other people. But even to the other way it's around, there was one dude who was just like this dude, he's a Mexican guy. He must have been a construction guy for like 20 years or whatever it is. And I'm just like watching him like, oh shit, look how fucking fast this guy is. Like, he knows what he's doing, hitting the drills and tearing shit apart, doing demo. I'm like, man, I gotta hang out with this guy.
Yeah, like what an interesting concept. Like watching anybody do something very well is very therapeutic. Seeing somebody be very good at something that is like practice. It's not like some, like watching. It's going back full circle to the TikTok thing. A lot of my algorithm was at some point was people who are very good at their jobs, right? And you would see people who were, doing things, like even cooking, like people who were very good at those Chinese guys with a wok.
Oh yeah.
And then you watch them serve like every last grain of rice into this bowl. You're just like, geez, it's so good. Watching anybody do something very well is also kind of like it's rewarding to watch. But then also being very good and having and showing somebody something is also very rewarding. So it is a benefit. When I was in the fire academy, that was the way that they told the unified theory of learning is that you see one, you learn one, you do one, and then you teach one. The last step is teach one. So you see one, right? The first step in learning anything, you watch something that you're like, oh, I would like to learn how to do that. You watch them do it. No questions, no nothing. You just watch the process. Then you learn one. That means that someone is showing you a step-by-step process in the procedure to get to do the thing. Then you see one, learn one, do one. Now you are doing it, right? So this is the longest step. You keep doing it until you get confident. You keep doing it until you get confident. And then the way to really make sure you know it is to teach it to somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. So in paramedic school, when we would be going through codes, we would be doing our stuff, and then they would have somebody come through and be like, teach him. And then it was like, oh yeah, you would really have to, the only way you really know something is to explain it to somebody who in a way that they can understand, even if they aren't a medical person, that's like the beauty of being able to teach something, is that it's also proving to you that you know it, Yeah. I love that idea. I've always wanted to build furniture and make stuff with my hands, and because that does feel very rewarding.
Yeah, it is the thing too of like, especially in so many people's lines of work nowadays, there's no finished product, but it's like, oh, I built this, I laid this drywall down, like this is like a thing.
Yeah. Like I'm trying to figure out how I would summarize the in terms for like how it impacts the people around you, but like everyone has their strengths and weaknesses in terms of like learning something. Building something is a proof of your expertise.
Yeah.
Right. There's a guy online that he wanted to make the perfect omelet the way Jacques Pepin does it. Famous, TV chef Jacques Pepin. And he was trying to make a French omelet following this one video, and he kept messing up. And finally started getting it. He started learning how to do the flip. He started learning how to do the folds. He started learning how to plate it. He started learning how to do all this stuff. And then to the point where Jacques Pepin himself replied to the guy's videos and was like, hey, congratulations. You did it faster than I ever could. Wow. It took me longer to learn how to do it than you did. And I was like, what a beneficial thing to have heard from the guy who you were copying, that he's like, oh yeah, you did it way faster than I could have, I did. And I was like, what an amazing thing to hear for someone to like, which also shows that the ego is not there, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, well, work hard next time, you can learn it. No, you did it great. Your work ethic was good. The way he phrased it was like, it took me longer to get to where you are now than it took you. And then, like, because the focus was just on that one omelet. Imagine you learn how to cook a million other things. But the idea that hearing somebody who is trained give you a frame of reference you weren't expecting, where you're like, oh no, I'm doing great. Like that is always such a beneficial thing. So, helping who you can, and then also realizing more than you did is such a boost to the brain. Yeah, that's great. And I expect you to build something for me soon. You expect I want a little what do they call them?
Birdhouse?
Spice rack.
Spice rack.
I was trying to think what they build in wood shop in high school. But yeah, that's great. Once all these things we'll take into the week with us. Let us know what your mind, body, and community focuses are this week. Again, you can follow us on social media or you can get, good old classic email. Email exists for a reason. So feel free to send us anything at zerosonheroes@gmail.com. No dick pics, please. The
I mean, just address it to Will if you're going to do it.
yeah, appropriately. Again, we're at Mike Mercadal and at William A. Watkins on social media. And we'd love to hear what your focuses are. If you want to be like Spyry Don and King Nick 007, you can join us live when we're on here recording on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch at Zeros on Heroes on all of those platforms. And you can share with us. I can't wait to see it. I hope Spyry Don sends us the vid of them hitting, 104 kilograms. That's
impressive.
Impressive. Great. Good for you, dude. Even 130. That's fantastic. I hope he does well, and I hope he meets his goals. And if you'd like Spyry Don, if you have any questions that we could answer that fit into the collateral benefit mindset that increases the positivity and the redefining of gym culture to be one of support and encouragement, send it our way. Will, is there anything you'd like to say before we dismount on the show?
The only thing we got to say is, Mike, you're looking really good, man.
Thanks, man. Just trying to look like you. And again, we will not flex on command. We do not do that.
We don't.
We don't.
It's something we
flex
don't
on command. You get out the door with that nonsense.
You need to go over there.
Over there. And you know what? Maybe we just start doing more Zeros on Heroes shows. Everybody, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Yeah. We're gonna be doing lots more fun stuff in 2025 to improve our body, our mind, and community, and benefit collaterally on all of those fronts. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Remember to go out and be heroic.